Hello, Amanda. Hey, can you hear me? Oh, oh no.
Yeah, but I muted myself, so now I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
muted.
Okay, I thought that was me. I was like, oh no, it's happening again. The Bluetooth
No, I just forgot
gods.
that I did these things.
No worries. Oh, look, Richard's here.
Yay!
Richard,
Hi.
thank you for being the first
First.
participant in our stream.
Yes.
First, yeah, you get some special swag. We'll send it to you in the mail.
I
No, I'm
have
just
I
kidding.
have no swag. I would love to be good at making things like the way like Abby and
Yeah.
Kayla made stickers and stuff. I'm like, man, I want to make stuff.
I know. I was literally when you were about to say that, you were like, "I wish I was good at making things." I immediately thought of Abby, and I'm like, she shows up to like every conference with these cool stickers, and she makes stickers of her dog. It's
So
just so
cool.
cute. Yeah. And then speaking of conferences, Richard said, "Nice shirt. Where did I get it? This is a temporal shirt from that conference."
Whoa.
I know, isn't it kind of weird for like a tech shirt? There's like a
It
skull
looks
on it.
They're
And
absolutely into metal there.
the back
Or
is
like
like a band thing, like a schedule for, you know how when you go
that's
on
cool.
tour? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Hey, Joe. But
Oh.
yeah, I love this shirt because it's so soft and I don't know, I feel like it doesn't really look like a tech shirt, so I wear it.
Definitely not. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. Like, not from like you'd have to really probably read it. There's probably like some clues in the like the band stuff in the
I feel
back.
like you can't even tell from that. Like, I think it says like that conference and the dates, but like if you aren't a tech person, maybe you don't know what that means. Maybe it's just
Tech people
another
don't
like
even
metal
always know
thing.
what that conference means. They're like, "What did you say?"
Exactly. Yeah. And then A is here. Hey. So here's Joe.
Hi.
Hi. Hey. How's it going? How's everyone's day going? If you want to tell us, let us know.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to know how your day is going. Yeah, I feel like when I wear this, I'm kind of like I'm a rocker,
Carmen.
you know? The people in the
Yeah,
street
feels
don't
very
know.
rocky.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't really listen to metal, but it looks like I do when I wear this shirt. So it makes me feel cool. And then Carmen's here. Hey Carmen. Do
Yay,
you know Carmen,
Carmen.
by the way?
Carmen is on my list of people I really hope to meet and run into at a conference someday. So, been
I met
following Carmen
her
for a while.
like
Very, yeah.
a
There's
week
a few people that
ago.
I'm like, man, I want to meet them.
Yeah, you should definitely meet her because she is so nice. Like one of the nicest people I've ever met, probably. Super sweet. And Amanda is
Right?
so cool too. I met Amanda in real life. I mean like I should have like a list. I think it's Braden. You know Braden Coyer? Do you know him?
That name. Oh, the he does the flights, right? Isn't he the guy that flies everybody around
No,
when we go to
I don't
the?
I don't think
Maybe
so.
that's
That's
somebody else.
I don't know
I
who
don't
that is,
know.
but I know who you're talking about because I saw him being like, "Hey, I'll fly you around" or something.
Yeah.
But I do know who you're talking about. No, this guy does not fly planes, I don't think. But he does like blog stuff, and on his like personal portfolio website, he has like a section that says cool people I met in real life or something, and
Aw.
it's like
Cool people
30
bingo card. Yeah.
yeah. And then he has like a section of like people I want to meet in real life, and I'm like, "Oh my god. You
That's
got to be
adorable.
really
I
cool to
love
be on the
that.
list." Yeah.
You can make an
And
app and then you can just like it's like like those country maps or something where people fill in like where they went, where they traveled to, like tech Twitter people I met. Like just
that
color
would
them
be
in.
cool. Yeah, I feel like if I made it exclusive to all tech Twitter people, then it would just be turn into like a
Too
huge
big.
thing. And then
You
I'd
could
be like
filter by
updating
like
it.
location or something. I don't know. So there's a way to like figure it out. I don't
Right.
know.
I think it would be really cool though, to be honest. Yeah, Richard said he wants to add it to his portfolio. I can imagine it like a whole page of like tech Twitter people or tech online
Oh,
friends that you met. But
that's
then you
cool.
wouldn't want to like accidentally leave someone out. I feel
You
like
need a
that's where
little
I
like,
get
did I forget
confused.
you? Submit yourself to my app. Like
Good idea. That would
open
be
a PR, add yourself.
yeah. And then Carmen wants to meet you, Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah, the coffee chats are back. I was traveling,
Woo!
going like back and forth between places. It was just way too chaotic the last, I think, like 3 weeks. So, um, yeah, and I'm doing pretty good. What about you, Amanda?
I'm good. I can't complain. So since I'm in the US, this is like Monday for me. Like I had a 3-day weekend, which is like the exact right amount of weekend for me as like a working person. I mean, like I would say 7 days is the right amount, but you know, like if I'm gonna work, I think 3 days is a really good amount of weekend. I feel very refreshed.
I agree. I genuinely think that we should have a 3-day weekend or at least like Wednesdays off, you know? But I feel like
That would
maybe
be
that like
nice.
your
A little
flow a
break.
little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be hard. I think I like to pack all my days together, I think, the off
Same.
days. But yeah, even just like 3 days of your choosing. Yeah.
I feel like if we become more of like a productive society and AI is handling a lot of things in the future,
Ooh.
then we should get 3 days off. I think I
Yeah.
was reading some kind of like research papers that were on Twitter, which I don't know if they were real or not, but I remember reading something about like how, our society definitely we should be working less as we progress more, right? But we are still
But
working
we aren't.
or
Somehow we
working
always end up
more.
working more.
Right,
And then
exactly.
making less and working more. You're like, how is this happening? This doesn't make
Right,
sense.
that's what I'm confused
Oh,
about. I'm
we've got
like,
another a person to sign our petition already.
I
First
know, it's
person to stream
amazing.
and first person to sign our petition.
Thank you. We're gonna post the petition later, and hopefully we'll get
Yes.
everybody to sign off, and Wix hopefully signs off on that
Oh,
in
I feel
pieces.
like they'll be fine. So working in the US, like Wix is the first company I've worked for that's not a US-based company. And like the vibe is definitely different in companies outside of the
Oh,
US that I've
really?
experienced so far, in that like, and obviously I have a very small sample size of data here, but my personal experiences, I feel like it's like I've worked for more traditional places before this where you almost feel like you have to give a laundry list of reasons why you need a day off versus like
Mhm.
if I was feeling like absolutely terrible today, even though I just had a 3-day weekend, I'm absolutely could tell my manager, be like, hey, I'm gonna, these are anything like that's an emergency. I need to take another day. And he'd be like, totally fine. Take care of yourself.
That's so
Like it's just kind
awesome.
of like he'd just be like, don't even worry about it, whatever. Like it's just a lot more like definitely more about like, how are you? How's your family? How's like take care of yourself. Like absolutely. Like we know you'll get your work done. Like we're not worried about that.
Yeah, I have heard that like in Europe, it's just way different or in different countries in general. Like I think the US has like this hustle culture when it comes to working in tech or maybe I don't know, maybe other industries too, but I feel like it doesn't exist as much in other places. I know somebody from France posted something. They were like, "Oh, when I got a job in the US, it was insane. Like they wanted me to work so much." And I
Yeah.
was like,
There's this
"Oh
pressure,
no."
even when it's not said, you're like, you feel like you've got, like, I remember when I worked in office more, I felt like if I just needed a break to go for a walk, like I had to just like really time it and be worried
Oh,
about how
no.
long I was, and like just to clear your mind. And it was different industries. Like I haven't always worked in tech, and it was different industries. You still felt like you always had to justify every minute of time you weren't productive. It was really a lot.
Yeah, that is really weird. I feel like we should be moving away from that, right? Like, but I
Yeah.
think also with technology, we are getting there. It's becoming more evident, if that makes sense, because you can actually like monitor people. I know some companies like they
Yeah.
actually like
Oh
look at your
man.
mouse moving around and do eye tracking stuff. I'm like, that's crazy.
Well, and
I
the
would
thing
be
about
so
what we
stressed out.
do, like, it's a creative process. And this is like the last talk
Yeah.
I gave was about that, like, developers are creatives. And if we think of them as just like production machines versus creatives, then like we burn them out because like a lot of work that I do, like I was taking a shower and brushing my teeth and was having like ideas that I want to pitch to my manager next time we have a one-to-one of like, and that's still work. I'm still checked in mentally, but I'm
Yeah.
not always physically on my keyboard. Like, it's because the kind of work we do has a creative aspect to it that involves breaks.
Yeah, exactly. I think, if I go on and the same thing with people, they're like, oh, you have a problem and you can't solve it. And you've been sitting there like looking at the screen for hours. And then you go on a walk or something. And then it's
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now.
Yeah, and
Or
there's
maybe you didn't
research
even
behind
realize it
that.
out there,
Yeah.
but like you get back and you're relaxed and you can kind of get in the
Mhm.
zone better. So, breaks are
Yeah,
really important.
yeah.
And I do see some messages here. Carmen said that she also had a major culture shock with a North American
Oh,
company.
I hope
Yeah,
it
I
worked
can
out
definitely
okay.
see
Or you
that.
went somewhere else. I hope
Well,
whatever
she has a
happened.
new job right now. She
Oh, you
just
do?
started. Yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh my
Yay.
God. She told me about it. I'm very excited. She said, it's so difficult over time. We've also learned to value ourselves and not just as tech people, but as humans by how online
Yes.
present we are. We're in condition to want to be. Yeah, yeah. I think as like people working in tech too, I think we
It's so
always want to be
true.
like super productive, even
Yeah.
online. I remember when I first started posting,
So
on
true.
Twitter, doing 100 days of code, it's like, I need to be productive every day and like show how
It takes the
much
fun out of
stuff I
it,
learned, you know? Yeah,
right?
it does. But I think it's like, this is an industry that sort of attracts people that like to learn and like to kind of
That's also
be
true.
productive, if that makes sense. And
That's true. That's
so I
true.
think like we put it on ourselves, but then it's also coming from other places, so it becomes too much, and I think that can like
Yeah.
lead to people getting burnt out and stuff.
On the value
So
of like sometimes it's fun just to learn for yourself and not as like part of your own content machine or any reason in particular is just out of curiosity and fun. Like not everything has to be, monetized or whatever,
right.
like whatever you're trying to do out there in the world. But it's hard right now. A lot of people are out of work and trying to get noticed, and there is all this pressure, and it's like, oh, if I'm not as productive as these other people I'm seeing, am I going to get passed over? And it's scary out there right now.
Yeah, it's a lot, I think. And I also saw this. I don't know if Joe is still here. I don't want to miss your question, Joe, because I will forget about it if I don't say it now.
Speaker,
But
yay.
that is so cool, by the way. If you're still here, I
Oh,
would love to know like where did you apply and what's the
yeah.
topic. I know Carmen in the chat is an amazing speaker. I saw her keynote at DevOps Days, and it was so good. It was about versatility as a developer,
I love
a
that.
DevOps practitioner, but it sort of was like about being a developer in general, or a developer advocate. And yeah, it was so, so good. So anyway, I want to know, what is the
Yeah.
topic for your
Yeah, Joe, if
speech?
you're there, I hope that it goes well. And I'm curious if it's your first talk. That's always like the scariest one to submit. It's the very first one. You
Yeah,
gotta just go
I
for it.
haven't submitted I've never submitted anything for a talk or anything. Maybe someday soon, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You'll know when you have an idea, like, you'll know it's like it'll come to you. Like, there'll be something that you wanna talk about or that you realize is more than tweets and more than a blog post and, like, just warrants, like, that in-person interactivity of, like, a talk. Um, or your
Yeah,
job will be like, "Hey, Ellie, I think you should go talk about something." That happens too. They're like,
right.
"Are you ever gonna go speak?" I'm like, "Maybe."
I think, like, as a developer advocate, I think eventually, like, you have to go and speak somewhere. I think that's
Usually it's
sort of
part of
like
it.
part of the job description. Yeah, like one of the things that I'm supposed to do soon is do some kind of workshop somewhere with students. So
Cool.
we'll see when
Oh my
that
gosh,
happens.
I love students. They're my
Yeah,
favorite. I love people that are new to things because they're like every little win is so exciting.
true,
And they're just like,
true.
yes. So with coding,
Yeah.
especially because once you get something working, or like with AI, like your AI tool, like when you can like see the power of it, oh, they're just like they get so amped. Now then they can get almost overwhelming because then it's like question, 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 question. You just gotta
I know.
like
That's what I'm scared about too, is like, are they gonna ask me a bunch of crazy questions that I don't know the
yes, but
answer
it's gonna be great.
to?
It's gonna be great. They are gonna ask you a bunch of crazy questions. You're not gonna know all the answers. You're gonna get overwhelmed by them. But it's like the energy of students is so fun. It's just
That
it'll
is
like
true.
energize you too.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Because at the conference where I met Carmen, there were so many students there. I mean, Carmen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was like 80% students or something. There were so many. And then I
Yeah.
ended up talking to a bunch of them, and it was really cool because they were still kind of figuring out what they liked and stuff. Oh, cute dog. Hello. So cute.
This is the time of day. Really, anytime after 3 p.m. for me, they come. Both of them are in here, and they kind of stomp around until I go feed them. Which it's not their dinner time at all right now.
Yeah, I've actually never had a dog before, but I think they are cute.
They're
Especially, I like
sweet.
that kind of dog. I don't know what kind of dog it is, but I like that kind.
Yeah, he's like a well, they say he's like a pit bull mix because like everything's sort of if they're adopted are mixed with Staffords or pit bulls, but he's really kind of skinny. Like so he's got more of that like sleek like lab, maybe German shepherd in him. He's a mutt. He's a sweetie
Oh,
pie.
he's cute. And I say Carmen
Oh,
said that it's so good that they
yes.
ask questions. Yeah, I guess that is true too, because I love it when I see somebody that is like apparently
Hi.
very high level developer status, and then they say like, oh, I don't know. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I guess they don't know too.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's great for students to see that it's okay to not know too. Cause I think I know like when I'm first learning anything, like we're all a student again at some point,
Mhm.
at any age. It's such a humbling experience to be learning anything. And it's always good to see the person that you're looking up to at that moment go, I don't know, but I'll help you find out
True.
or I'll get back to you. And then you're like, right. Okay. I never have to know everything. It's okay to not know.
Yeah, and I wonder, so if going back to kind of like the speaking topic, I guess Joe's not here anymore,
Okay.
but do you think doing a workshop is easier or like an actual conference talk where you're like,
Oh, they're so
here's my
different.
thing?
Workshop is usually longer, which is a little
Mhm.
intimidating because it's a lot of time to warrant get somebody's focus. Like we did when we released Wix Studio, which is our like newest platform. We did kind of like a world education tour, and so
Mhm.
everybody in the company was basically involved and got assigned to different cities. I was part of course the dev side of it, but and I went to Miami. So me and another and then a developer, we put together a full day dev workshop for coders wanting to learn how to code on our platform and just trying to figure out how do we make this interesting, how do we keep people engaged, how do we give them enough breaks, how do we because you can't focus and learn all day long. But we had these
Yes.
crazy multi-day, all day long workshops. They'd have like design in the morning and code in the afternoon, this, that. And I'm like, this is so much for people. So I think workshops for me, I'd say are still a little harder when they're like those big blocks of time, especially because you're like, okay, how do I make this fun? And like what do I want them to get out of it? Because it's such a long period of time to stay focused.
Yeah, I think for me, it's if a workshop is like 4 hours long and I don't get like at least 3 breaks, it's very hard
Lots of
for me
breaks.
to
Yeah.
I need a break at least every hour, you know?
Yeah. And
Um,
you need some interactivity. Like
yeah, that
I know
too,
like
definitely. If they're like talking at me the whole time, I'm
yeah,
gonna like glaze over and it's gonna be I'm gonna miss something important. And then like halfway
absolutely.
through, I'm gonna be like, maybe I should just go to the hallway
Yeah.
and talk
Well,
to
you can
people.
even find out at the beginning of the session, like what's most important to people, like what, like figure out why they came there today, like figure out that important, like what, so you know what to focus on too. And then I think about like you were in Kelly's workshop with me at Render, I think. You were
Yeah,
there,
I don't
or
know
you
if
were
we
at
went
one
to
of
the
those.
same one, but I went
You
to
might have a different
Kelly's.
time. And she
It
had
was so
like
good,
activity
yeah.
breaks with the tables. Like, so
That was
it broke
helpful.
up like just listening to her and then like, okay, like have a little like interactivity with your group here. And so it just kind of like changed. And then of course, plenty of breaks to go get coffee.
Right, yeah, I remember she gave us a break, like, every hour and or less maybe, I think, like, every 50 minutes or something, I feel like, and then
Yeah.
those kind of the table conversations that we could discuss something, I think they happen, like, 2 or 3 times with each block before going to the
Yeah.
bathroom, and,
Yeah.
I really liked those because maybe Kelly or a speaker would be talking about things at more of, like, a high level, like, "Okay, this is my experience. Maybe there's these words that you've never heard before. And you're just like, okay, trying to digest what is going on here. And to be fair, Kelly explained it very well, but sometimes it's hard to understand. And then when you go back to the table and you discuss, it's like now we're all kind of at the same level here. We're not the speaker, and we
Yeah.
can kind of bring it down to a sort of normal person level, if that
Absolutely.
makes sense. So I really liked that part. I was like, okay, now we can discuss it and kind of break it down and make it personal because she had us share a
Yeah.
lot of like our personal experiences. I remember one of the funny ones was like, what's the, she said like talk about the person that you worked with that was like the worst person you've ever worked with or something? It was like who did you work with that like did not take feedback the best?
Yeah, yeah,
Took
because
it
it
the
was about
worst or
leadership. It was
something?
like, how to like, when did this not go well? You know, people love to talk about those stories. They're like, "Oh, I got
Right.
one for you. This was terrible."
Everybody at the table was like, "Oh, let me tell you about this guy George from 5 years ago." And we were like, "Okay."
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're having a therapy session here now. Everybody lay it out.
Right.
Um,
Right. I love
Another thing I
that.
like to do, and depends on the level of the workshop you're doing. So when I did the education workshops in Miami, I didn't know the level of people coming, but it was an introductory workshop. So in case more advanced people came and I didn't want them to get disappointed, I had some prompts that I put up on the slide, like because I knew I was going to have a lot of needing to do hands-on help. I knew that from just kind of honestly experience with the product and how people kind of learn it. I was like, okay, we're probably gonna have a lot of times where we need to actually go around and show people some stuff. And so I'd have the slide up and it's like that, like kind of ideas to go further. Like if you've got it and you want to keep going, here's what you could do next. Like so that because we had a few more advanced people show up that were like beyond the level of the workshop and I didn't want
Right.
them to feel like they didn't get anything out of it. Also took some like other times aside with that particular group of people because I like realized that I was like, okay, they didn't realize that this is a very intro level thing. Totally fine. Let me like work with them and see what they're interested in. So
Yeah, and also I think like it definitely I think it's hard when you have that sort of dynamic going on because when I was at Kelly's workshop there were some people at the table that like expected something completely different and I guess they had been engineering managers for like many years and stuff and so they were I don't know what they expected anyway. I ended up like moving tables halfway through because those guys left. But um yeah, I think
you're like, oh, this isn't for me.
yeah, it's hard to kind of make you can't make content that's literally suitable for every single person at every single level.
Yeah.
But I was curious about like so Wix is, a product that you actually use, right, to
Hmm.
create websites and stuff.
Yeah.
Um if you were doing a workshop, so Kelly's workshop is more of like oh, I like Carmen likes to say this is core skills, not soft skills.
Yeah.
Core skills.
Yeah.
And but if you're doing a workshop where you're actually showing like a demo, like, hey, this is what you can use Wix for, and you can do this special thing that maybe nobody knows about or something like that, then I feel like it'd be harder to do those little breakout sessions at the tables because or you would have to like get everybody's computer open. Like, how would you do that? Or would you let them
It
brainstorm stuff?
depends.
I
Yeah, I
don't
guess it
know.
depends on what you're doing. Like you could have them if it's a so with a way we could do it for Wix Studio specifically is that you can have collaborators and you can code at the same time. So you could have people build projects by table and have them applying concepts, but not
Oh,
not say like maybe they have to build it. Maybe it's like, okay, I want you to do, I don't know, whatever, do some back end event that queries the database and displays the data on the front end. Like maybe something really simple. Be like, I don't care what the data is. I don't care what you guys build, but I want to make sure you know how to set up the database, query it, and then display the data. That's all they have to do. And so you show them the concepts of that. And then maybe the tables can be like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And they can all work together. So that would be fun. If it's a collaborative tool, if it's individual, then, you probably have to have them, they'll be building something individually and they'll just be like, talking to the person next to them maybe and like, oh, like I'm stuck, or it depends on how social
yeah.
they are.
Yeah, well, I guess if it's like a longer workshop, like 4 hours, then they definitely could be building something throughout the workshop.
Yeah.
I think I don't know how long the workshops that Pieces wants me to do. I think they're shorter, like sort of mini workshops. I'm not
Hmm.
sure though. That's how it seemed to me when I like looked over the
Yeah.
slides. It's not like a super long workshop, so I don't know if I could um make people build something in like a short amount of
I've
time.
done a well, it
But
depends. It depends
I
on
don't
what
know.
stack you use for sure. But also the power of something like Pieces is that you can move faster. So maybe you can. Maybe that makes it really impressive.
Right.
So I know the
Yeah, or
first
even
the
if it was
first
like
workshop
going
I
through
did,
the features and stuff, but I feel like people like to build something and create
building
something.
something tends to make it stick better usually, but it depends. Like, your tool is very different than like the type of tool I support. But like the first thing I did was I had to make a tic-tac-toe game on Wix. That's and I did, it was a virtual one, so it was for like Major League Hacks that we had a like a like a hackathon with them. And so I did the workshop, it was virtual, but what I also had, and I think we put it in GitHub, I had like everything somewhere else. I had the instructions somewhere else so that if, especially because it was virtual, like I have no idea how people are doing. I can't see what they're doing.
Right.
So at the beginning, they all got access to the directions. If they wanted to follow along with me, they could. They could also read and do it themselves. And it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, they're still like learning something. My demo actually failed live, but I was like in the chat and they were like, no, it's fine for us. And
Oh,
I
good.
found out later, of course, what was wrong. I just like panicked in the moment. I was like, oh my gosh, because I hadn't been doing this long enough to like know
Mhm.
what to do in that moment. And I was
Right.
like, oh
That's
no,
what
I
I
was
would
just
be
like,
scared of too. I'm like, what if everything goes
well,
wrong?
now I always have a recording of literally everything ready to go, no matter what, if it's something I need to demo. But
Oh.
yeah, because I work in a cloud environment and there's so
Mhm.
many reasons that it could break. I can't, it's not local. Like I can't assure it's
Oh,
gonna
so
work.
so if you were to do a demo in real life, would you just show the recording of you doing something, or would you
I,
actually do it?
the only time I've done it truly live, it was absolutely a disaster. I usually
No, no.
record it, like I said, because the I'm reliant on Wi-Fi being good, and at a conference, it's just not usually. So and also if it's recorded, it allows me to focus on connecting with the audience. I know a lot of people go back and forth about if they prefer live coding from a speaker and an audience perspective. I always want to live code, but when I've tried it, it's never, I feel like the session's never as impactful because I'm too focused on making sure
Right.
the thing is working, and I'm too nervous that it might not. And maybe that's just inexperience. It's not like I've been doing this for 20 years or something.
Right. I feel like I would be so stressed out about that I wouldn't be able to like chill out and,
Yeah.
do what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Or and I
But
don't know, I don't think you were there. Were you at the
I was
Atlanta
I
the
was at the
JavaScript meetup?
render thing. Yeah.
So that I just had most
That
of
was
it
good.
coded. Yeah, I had most of it coded and just did a code review of things and then
Right.
showed a little bit. So that was like live-ish. I had a lot of it pre-done though, and I did have a backup recording if it just didn't work.
Maybe live-ish is a good way to go, like to kind of
Yeah.
lessen the nerves going in because it's like, okay, if all goes bad, I have some other stuff.
Yeah. For me,
So
it's nice because it's like I feel like it's almost like an ego thing that I want to do it live. Like I want to show you I can do it live, and that's
yeah.
not about the audience. That's about me. So I try to let that go.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, the chat has been talking about a lot of random stuff. I think they
I
were
love
talking
this.
about
What do we got going
karaoke,
on?
Korean music.
What? We're everywhere in the
Yeah,
chat.
they
I
are
love
like
this.
in their own world. And
I
then
love that.
apparently Znact Codes won 2 merches, 4 days Web3 event and met amazing
Cool.
folks. I am so happy for you. I love to win stuff too. It's always a good feeling.
Yes.
So I love that. And Carmen mentioned to me a while ago that I should submit a talk. I think this is the conference that you
I've
mentioned
heard good
before.
things about that of the You Got This comp. It is that the
Yeah.
one in where is that the one in Germany, in Berlin, or no? I don't know where
Let
that
me see. You
maybe.
got this conf. I don't know where it is. Oh, oh, it doesn't say where it is. Wait.
In Berlin in January. Okay, it is yeah, Carmen
Oh,
just
okay.
said. Yeah, I was like, I thought I
Oh.
saw that because I was thinking about the talk I just did in Budapest.
Mhm.
People really, really liked it. Like even more than I expected, which is always nice to happen. But it made me think about like thinking on it more and evolving it and maybe submitting it again. Hi.
Roxy's here and Nick. Yeah, I think it looks like a cool conference, definitely. So, and
Yeah.
I looked up, I just saw on the website, I think it said something about core skills on like the first page. So I love that. I
Yeah.
love core skills talks.
Yeah, and I think that one does, they don't fully pay, but they do a speaker stipend, I believe, or a travel stipend, something like that. So it's because I know for, and I don't know how Pieces is, and this is pretty common. Anybody
Mhm.
that's not in developer advocacy, but if you're considering it, is that a lot of companies may or may not support your travel depending on what you're talking about. So I can talk about whatever I want, but Wix isn't going to fund my travel unless I'm doing something that's like essentially part of my job. So if I'm coding and happens to be on the platform, but if I'm talking about soft skills, it's less likely that they would sponsor me, which is totally,
Right.
I get that. Totally fine. Like they don't mind if I go do it, but they're like, not, there's not funding for that for me. So that's more on my own.
Yeah, I'm not really sure because I'm fairly new, so I don't know how they really the protocol is for if you want to go and do like a soft skills or core skills
Yeah.
talk. I feel like you'd have to like plug pieces somehow, right?
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
there can be a balance sometimes. For me, for that particular talk, there's a way for me to, talk about creativity and also our
yeah,
product. But for that one, I didn't want to. It was like a talk that I wanted for myself, so I was like fine with
right. I feel like
with it not being part
sometimes
of that.
it's
Mhm.
kind of I don't know. I think if there's a talk that you have a really strong idea and you're like, okay, I want to talk about this, and then you try
Yeah.
to like add something into it, it just makes it
Yeah.
weird. Or then also
Yeah.
like one thing I did notice when I was at the DevOps days because I've been to Render that conference and DevOps days, and I noticed at that conference like it's very unusual for people to like plug their companies in the talks. I don't know if you've have you been to that conference? I think you
I
have.
haven't, but Emmy, who works with me, has. She
Okay.
spoke at the Texas one
Oh,
in
but she plugged
January.
it really well because she brought all those hats, right? So
Yeah, so
I
yeah,
feel
we
like
did
that's a
we
good
did
way
sponsor
everybody's
her
like
to go to
happy.
that one. Yeah, so that was the balance where we did like she did bring a way to, introduce the product, but in a way that's not like
She
antithetical to
did it
like the
really
spirit of
well
that
though.
content. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
she's
hard.
really good at that nuance, I think.
Right. But
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it's hard to figure out how to do it in a good way
Yeah.
because and at that conference I noticed like not a lot of people kind of like plug their companies, I guess. And then I noticed at Render I don't really I went to a lot of talks there. I don't remember that happening there either, so I'm not sure if they have like rules. I don't
Yeah.
remember it
Well,
very
the
much except for
best
like
talks,
Francesco
yeah,
brought
it
like
shouldn't be
a
obvious.
you know.
Anyway, the best
Right.
talks that have a product involved, the product is there, but it's and this is why, like, why salespeople and marketers don't do product talks at developer conferences because if we should be showing you something cool, and it shouldn't be just like marketing the product. Like that our expertise is about doing something cool and showing off the tools, but in a honest way.
Yeah, yeah. I did notice some talks when I was at DevOps days that it was like in my just my opinion. I love the conference. I did notice though that it was like a lot of the talks they mentioned their companies, which is fine, but in a way
Yeah.
it was like a little bit too I don't know if it's obvious or whatever. I just didn't notice it at like that conference or Render. I'm not like a
Yeah.
super experienced conference goer, so I don't know about other
Yeah.
conferences and like the rules and stuff. Because I think maybe Render and that have like specific rules about it or something, and I'm not
I
sure.
mean, I don't.
Um,
I think it's the speakers render attracts because I went to who's the AWS Brooke and her conference talk was very very clearly an Amazon talk, but
right,
it was she was doing like an ABCs of AI, but they were all Amazon examples, so it was very clearly a work
right.
talk, but it was still she's a good speaker and was able, like, it wasn't too much, and also it's a
Right.
balance too, like if every single talk it was like clear they were just talking about their product, like you said, it's just like with the sponsor slots. Yeah,
Right.
we had
I don't think
sponsor
it was like
slots at
all
Render
clear.
last year.
Right. I this like the sponsor slots, I totally knew that they were sponsor slots. So I was like, okay, I know this is a sponsor slot. So obviously it's like
Yeah.
all about their product. I think it's different though if like a lot of the talks have like the sponsor plug thing. Or not the sponsor plug,
Yeah,
but
you need a
the company
balance. And
plug.
I'm sure I've never organized a conference, so I don't know how hard it
Right.
is.
I
Like you
don't
need
know.
money. You need
It
money.
wasn't bad though. I don't want to like I'm not like hating on the conference at all. I love the conference. I just did notice it more
Yeah.
than before. So
Yeah.
I I think it's kind of it's not like literally a talk. Somebody was like talking about their product the whole time, but I just noticed it like I could tell, that the company that they paid to send this person here, which is like, oh, fair,
Yeah.
and obviously you do have to plug this, your company because they paid for you to be here and talk about this really cool subject.
Yeah.
So I think it's really hard to like find a balance between those things because I don't know. The one thing that I was thinking about when it doesn't really bother me, but I was thinking about like, does that actually help the company? Like this, like plug in the middle of like a random talk that's kind of not totally related to this company product. Do you know
I
what I'm
guess it
talking about?
depends. I guess it depends. I know, like, so when I have talked directly about Wix in the past, I try to approach it from so it's a low code platform. It's not a completely open platform. It's very flexible, but it's still a low code platform. So I tend to approach it from if you're interested in low code development, here's things about low code development. I'm going to use Wix to
Mhm.
show you my demo, but the actual subject of the talk that I've given is for low code developers. You could take the
Yeah,
ideas and apply them to your environment. So like for you working
right. I
at
really
for
like
like an
that.
AI tool, like you can talk about AI, obviously use pieces for your demo, and you can. I've seen
Mhm.
plenty of speakers make jokes about it. Like, obviously, I'm going to use this for my demo. Use whatever you want. Like, but I work here. Like, um,
Yeah, true.
so there's
I
that can
yeah.
be like a little fun way to be like, these concepts can apply anywhere. Unless it's something you'd be like, this is specific to our tool, but blah 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 applies anywhere. Or it's like, and I think as long as
Right.
you're like, it's like you said, as long as it's not forced and the information is useful, like, is it useful to a developer? And are you honest
Yeah.
about what you're going to talk about? And I think then people can choose whether or not to come.
Right. I guess the difference would be between the two would be like somebody using something in the middle of their talk being like, oh, I'm using this, but you can use that. Like what you just said is totally reasonable versus like then you go into like a sales pitch about something, which would be more of
Ooh.
like a sponsor slot type of
Yeah,
situation. Do you know what I mean? I think, but the actually just using it and not going into the sales pitch moment is more effective. Like
I think so,
because people
personally.
aren't put off by it and then they are, like maybe they're like, oh, that product is actually pretty cool, like maybe I'll try it.
Well,
So
and then like that's when you get a booth. Like you have a booth and you
yeah.
can do the true like demo, like here's the product, here's all the cool features, here's why you should use it. Like there's definitely a time and place for that too. But and it
Right.
depends. Like when I went to the first one of the first earlier conferences I went to was I feel like it was like one of those big San Francisco ones that's like overwhelming. It was like Developer World or Developer Universe or something. I
Oh,
don't know. And it was like I felt like it was like all sales people and
I
all
have
product
heard about
talks.
that. Like at those
And
big conferences it gets very salesy and there's
it
a
was
lot
so
of
much. And I
plugs.
didn't feel like it was a good, I recommended when I came back from it, I was like, I don't think this is
Oh.
our audience. I literally had four people in my talk.
Oh no.
And it
I
was, they
have
gave
heard
me
that
the
with big
first slot of the
conferences.
morning when people were like still
Oh
checking in,
no.
and I was like back in a corner of this giant expo hall. So and this is another thing that in that moment, like those four people showed up at like 8 a.m. and I was like, what do y'all want to learn about? Like, this is what I'm going to talk about, but why are
Yeah.
you here? Like, I was like, we can do whatever you want
Right,
because
now it's
you're
like a
actually here.
collaboration session.
Yeah. Well, and it was actually better that way because these people did know about my product already and they had some specific questions. And I was like, I'll do my presentation, but like, let's just talk because, you've got a captive like representative here and you're clearly interested if you got your butt here at 8 a.m. in the back of this hallway and I'm nobody, like you don't know who I am. Like it's not like you're here because I'm like a known speaker or something. So I was like, there
Yeah.
must be a reason you came. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I love that you got to have that experience, but I do think it sucks like when, you're at a huge conference and then you're like the first slot or the last slot. I know Francesco was the last one at Render.
It's
He
a
had one
hard
of the last
slot.
I went and I think there wasn't that many people compared to some other talks, which like if he had a talk in the middle, I'm sure the room would be like completely full, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be like that sometimes. And the
yeah,
multi-track conferences, end of the day, end of the second day is really hard. Single track,
true.
it's not as bad because so I was the last speaker slot at JSConf Budapest, and everybody and it was so hot.
Oh,
It was
no.
like in an old theater, so it was really hot too, so people were
Sounds
sleepy,
terrible.
and, like, there was tons of people there, and it went really well, and it was a great, like, if because I was nervous when I saw I was the last slot, but I had never been in a single track, like, really great small community conference, and it was just such a lovely experience, and everyone was really tuned in, and I had so many great conversations. So it was like that was, like, probably the best one of the best conferences I've been to, for like meaningful conversations that I had, comparatively,
Yeah.
because it's like not as overwhelming as the bigger ones where there's just so much going on. Like Render, I love, but I also get burnt out because there's so much going on. But that's
Render
another good one.
was a lot. Render was a lot. And yeah, that's I'd never been to a single track before I went to DevOps days, the one Carmen was at, and it was really cool for that reason too. Like I it was cool being in the same room as everybody every single session, and you get to really get to know a lot of people, and then, you know, when you see them out there, you know, all of them, it turns into like this kind of little club and that you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that sort of feeling, because you can really get to know people like to the next level compared to, you know, like Render or bigger conferences, maybe even bigger than Render. There's like so many tracks, and
Yeah.
maybe you see someone and you're like, no, oh, I gotta go to the next session, like,
I
and then
think it's
maybe you
less
never see them again.
overwhelming. I remember thinking it was the first conference I'd been to where I felt like there was a lot of like the speakers in the audience really hung out too at
Yeah.
the sorry, hold on, my dog found a squeaky toy.
I
Hi, can I
know.
have that? This is the offending
Cute.
porcupine. He
Your
can't
dog is
have that
like,
right
"Oh
now.
no, can I
He's
have
like,
it
get up,
back?"
get up. Oh my god. Anyway, what was I now? Oh, this I felt like I got to connect with the audience more because it was almost like there was that like, and I feel this way in an audience when it's like tons and tons of people are like swarming speakers, this and that. When it's a bigger conference, like there was a lot more like I hung out with the audience at the events too, instead of like a lot of times the speakers end up just hanging out. Like they'll talk with the audience too, but like you feel like then the events like kind of go all over the place and you don't get to like just hang with the people that
Right.
came to the conference as much as I did. No, you can't have that.
Yeah, I think I
Sorry.
don't know, because I wasn't a speaker, but I did see a lot of people, you know, going up to Carmen and being like, "Your talk was so good," and then she ended up talking to a lot of people. So I do think there was more opportunities for that versus, like, I guess if you're at a bigger conference, then you listen to someone's talk and they end sort of close to the end of the time
Yeah,
slot, and then you're like, "Uh, I gotta go eat because I only have 20 minutes," or
that's
whatever. So
true.
then I guess, like, and then there's a line of people trying to talk to the person, and maybe you'll never see them again because they're gonna go into the VIP room or something.
Yeah, and I don't think that, like,
Yeah.
and that's definitely no shade to, like, speakers at big conferences. I
Right.
think they're overwhelming for the speakers too,
Because
and so
there's so
everybody
many
needs, like, a minute. Like, I went back to the
yeah.
hotel so many times at Render, and I wasn't even speaking.
Right.
I was like, I
I
need to
totally
take a
understand that
moment.
too. Like, you need the space to kind of decompress and everything. And but I think, you know, at a smaller conference, there's not as many people like lining up to talk to you. So maybe it's a little bit more
Yeah.
chill, you know,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
can get a chance to talk to whichever speaker. And I also want to go back to Sophia's question. I think we kind of answered
Oh,
it, but I don't want to forget it. And she said,
yeah.
how do you submit a talk about your company's tool without making it look like you're promoting the company's tool?
Um, I try to think about what, like, I try to take, like, step out of it and, like, for a minute and be like, what do I like instead of thinking like what does the company want me to talk about? Think about like what do I actually think is cool about this? If somebody asks me about my tool, what do I tell them about it? Or what do I like or what would make me interested and try to think about like like why would I use this if I didn't work here or something like that. Like see if you can start to
That's
think of
cool.
it as an angle of like what's cool about this or think about just anything like if it's like I feel like with something like pieces is probably like the overwhelming part is you can kind of do anything with it, right? You can do
Right.
whatever and show it off. So then in that case build whatever you want and then like I said bring it in as something that you use to help you but you're showing somebody something cool that you think is interesting. It's the same problem I have with Wix Studio. You can you can build almost anything on Wix. There's very few things that you can't build on Wix. Do you want to? Definitely, maybe not. There's a whole lot of things that go into that choice, but it makes it harder almost to not have a narrow business use case because I could build almost anything. So I try to think about like, if somebody's thinking about using a low code tool, like what would impress them about this? What would be cool about it? Like, what would get me excited to think about using this, and then try to focus on that as best I can.
Yeah, I guess
But
I
it
guess
is
that is
hard.
a
There's a
really
lot
good
of
way.
pressure from companies sometimes.
I think it also depends on the tool, right? Because I
Yeah.
guess if it was something like Pieces and you were just doing something completely, just a random project, maybe not random, but like whatever your subject was for the talk, you're doing
Yeah.
this project, you're doing a demo or whatever, and then you like run into a problem, you could just like pull it up and be like, hey, what's this
Yeah.
error mean? So you could use it just
Hmm.
casually. So that would be sort of an easy way to integrate. But
Absolutely.
then some things maybe it's not as easy to just kind of smoothly
It
mention. You know
depends
what I
on the
mean?
tool a lot.
It
Yeah, like
depends.
it's if you have a tool that only has one solitary use case, then
Right.
yeah, like that definitely limits how you can be creative about it. For sure. But that also might change the kind of conferences and places that you go to. And maybe it's more appropriate to just show, here's how you do, I don't know if it's like a testing tool, here's how you integrate this testing tool into your workflow because people are there to learn about testing tools. And then so it's like not as weird to just
Right.
talk about your product specifically.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
if you mention like multiple products, different ones,
mhm.
that could work.
Well, that's hard too because you got to
But
be
then
careful,
you're
right?
mentioning competitors, right? So that's
You
bad.
don't want to be like throw shade at like another company on like a stage, but
Right,
but
right. That's what like right when I said that, I was like, "Oh, that doesn't really make sense."
because I've
'Cause
thought about that when I did my more general like how to approach low code tools as like a
Mhm.
developer, like coming from more traditional developer environments. And I was like, at one point I wanted to talk about like different low code tools, but I was like, I don't have a good way to do this from my position working at Wix. So I just kind of got rid of that slide. I was like, I'm not comparing tools. It does it. There's no way for me to do this from an honest place. Like it's just not possible. You can look up other low code
Yeah.
tools.
Yeah, 'cause you're gonna be a little bit biased, and then also, like, it's
Yeah.
probably I don't know, it's kind of a weird territory to
It's
get
weird,
into,
right?
I guess.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
well,
I
and I
think
always tell
there are
people though,
some
I'm like,
things.
I wouldn't work for a company that I didn't think it was a good tool. I really wouldn't. And like, you can believe that or not, but I'm always like, it's a good tool. It's not the only tool, but it's a good tool. Stickers.
Carmen said stickers are a great
I
motivator.
love
I do
stickers.
think
I
if
love
if
them.
you do a talk and you do like talk about your product and stuff, and it's just like you have to, maybe they paid you to be there, and or whatever the case is, maybe you want to do something. If you bring some stickers or like some kind of swag, people, I think regardless of how you deliver it, will be very happy with the
Yeah.
results. People are very easily
Absolutely.
bribed by stickers. So
Yeah. But
definitely a
then you
good
also
answer.
like, if you have to put on like your company, if you have to think about like the okay, like people like stickers, but from a company standpoint, do stickers turn into people actually trying out my product, which is what your company
True.
wants ultimately. So it's like that balance of like, hey, like I still have to show you something cool enough to go, I want to try that. Because think about the
Right.
best conference talks that you've been to, like they're technical. You saw something, you go, oh, that's neat. I want to go try that. Like that's really where what the takeaway is if you did it right.
Yeah, and
It
recently
can. Oh, Carmen says it can. So wait, maybe stickers can turn into trials.
it can. I think so. I think so, honestly, because if I'm going through all my swag after a conference, I remember that person that gave me the thing. So I'm like,
That's true. You
yeah.
remember those conversations,
If I
or you
don't
look at
get the
that sticker and go,
swag,
"What
then
is
I'll
this?" And
forget.
then you look it up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So maybe I'll look it up if I forgot what it was and they gave me some
Okay,
kind of
okay.
coupon or something. Well, what's this coupon for? Like $5 off of what?
Yeah. It also depends on where your
Yeah,
company's at. Like, do you need just brand awareness? Like, is brand awareness, like people knowing your name at all, a metric? Like, Wix,
true.
I don't know if you can hear this plane that seems to be flying way too close
No,
to
I
the
can't hear
city.
it.
Yes, like it's so loud. Like apparently it's coming very close here. I don't live near an airport. So if like, so Pieces is a newer tool. So maybe part of your
Right.
metrics is just, we just want more people to know that we exist in
Yeah,
this marketplace of AI things, you know?
that's true. Because Jim
Wix has
mentioned
been
that
around
too.
forever and ever and ever. So like just the name isn't super like exciting to most people, but it's the, hey, we actually have a whole suite of really awesome developer tools now. And then it's like getting people to take a second look at a brand that they think they already know. And that, so it's like a different thing that
Right.
marketing team is trying to do. So
'Cause a
that
lot of people
that
have, like,
matters too.
opinions about Wix, right? They're like,
Oh
"Oh,
yeah,
it's
so
this,
many
like, no
opinions.
code, whatever thing." They're like, "I tried it 5 years ago, but
Code and
now you're like,
Crochet,
no, it's changed."
is that an
Code and
event? Oh no,
Crochet
this is a person. Code
no,
and
that's a
Crochet is a
person
person.
that's Maggie from Twitter. Maggie is so sweet. I
Oh,
don't know if you know
I was like, code
Maggie.
and crochet. This sounds like a fun event. I want code craft events, like where
Me
I can
too.
just, yeah, like he brought a different squeaky toy up. Check it out. No, I'm
I
taking
know.
this one. Now we've got a pizza.
A pizza, amazing.
I've got two squeaky toys here.
Oh my goodness.
I keep taking them when he brings them to me. He's gonna be so mad.
Oh no, he's gonna be like, "Why?" Maybe he's gonna think like you're collecting them now, and he's
Yeah,
gonna
he
bring you
probably thinks this
more.
is a game. I'm gonna have all of them on my desk by the end of this. Let's see how many we can get. Go get me
Yeah,
another
let's
toy.
see.
Now he's just looking like, what? I don't speak
Where'd
your
my toy
language.
go? That's so cute. But
It's
yeah,
very
I do think like what you mentioned about kind of like people kind of raising awareness. I think Jim, I don't know if he mentioned it as like touch points or something, but you need like 7 or 9 different times that you see
oh,
something to actually
it's a
remember it,
crazy amount of time,
right?
like psychologically, that you have to like have like something. It's why advertising or like product placement in movies, you don't even realize it's happening to you. But you
Yeah.
see stuff, eventually you remember it, and then eventually like it might come up in conversation and be like, oh, are you trying to steal a toy? He's here trying to
He's like,
steal a
"Can I
toy.
please have my toy back? I feel very disturbed."
Okay, maybe. All right, should we give him chat? Do we give him the toy?
I think we
All
should.
right, we
I think
have
we
to. Look how cute he is. Hold on. We're gonna see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Oh, so cute. He's like, "Please, I traded you the pizza for the what is it, a porcupine or
Yeah,
what
that
is
was a
that?"
porcupine. I have the pizza. That
Now
he
that
has
I
a
said porcupine out loud, I'm like, that doesn't even sound like
porcupine.
a
It's a
real
weird word.
word.
It's
Yeah,
a
I feel
weird
like
word.
I just made it up or something. It doesn't
I
even
wonder what it
sound
is in other
real. Is it a
languages, because that's like
hedgehog?
a very specific weird word. Oh wait, you speak other languages. What's that in
I don't
Mandarin? What do you
know. I don't
speak?
know what a porcupine is.
Do they
I
have
don't even feel like
porcupines?
I feel like we just made up that word and it's not real. No, it is.
It's a
Okay.
it's a real, there's
Hedgehog.
certain,
I think that animal that you're
oh, a
holding though,
hedgehog.
I think it's a
Hedgehog, I
hedgehog
think that's
actually.
likely a hedgehog. I think you're correct.
Right.
Hey,
I think
Gunner,
that's a
can I
hedgehog.
have the hedgehog?
Hedgehog
Oh,
makes more sense to me. Like looking at that, it feels like a
I think you're
hedgehog.
right. It does feel like a hedgehog.
Hedgehogs are so cute actually. I'm looking at pictures of them now. I'm like, man, I
A
want
friend of
one of
mine
these.
got one time. They're nocturnal, so like they don't do anything during the day apparently.
We've got
How do you?
porcupine in French.
Oh, I will massacre that if I say that out loud. But it looks
I'm
very
gonna
cute.
say porc épic. I don't know.
Oh,
That
I don't
sounds kind of
know. An
questionable
epic
though.
pork. That's
An epic pork. That's how I read it too. I was like, epic pork. Okay. Like an epic
interesting.
pig. I don't know.
Anyway, so we
Porcupine
have
tech conference. I agree.
porcupine
I
conference.
agree.
I want to do more activities at conferences. You know, I'm going to go back. So JS Conf Budapest is now my favorite thing in the world, even though it doesn't exist anymore. That was the last one, but
Oh
they did
no.
Tim, who's probably not here, but he actually just got his first DevRel job, but he
Yay,
was
Tim.
doing. I
Who's
know,
Tim, by the way?
yay. I met him there because he did the there was like the like on the second floor they had like the lounge, and he
Uh-huh.
would do like all these trivia games and like just like lots of fun stuff, and have like a gold sparkly jacket, and he was just having a good old time up there.
Aw.
Aretha.
We've got some more porcupine.
It's so nice and cute and short in other languages. We have
That's a
this
cute
big
word.
obnoxious word like porcupine. Like it's like
Right.
you gotta chew on it. It doesn't even It's not
Sounds
even,
rough.
we don't really have an elegant sounding language most of the time though here in
Yeah,
English.
that's fair. That's fair. Like most things aren't very elegant, so
No.
unless you're
Well,
British, I feel like
unless we
then
stole them from
it's
other
fine.
people's languages and just like, made it our
I think the
own.
problem is just because we are speaking American English, but I think if you
American
hear
English,
like
yeah.
British people talk, it sounds actually pretty good, right?
It's probably
So
pretty nice. Yeah.
that's our problem. We changed the language from the good version and made it sound better.
Ugh.
Typical
Oh
Americans,
man. All right, so I'm so
Canadians.
excited. So we have Sophia's working on talks. We had Joe earlier working on talks.
Yeah, and then what were you saying about Tim?
Oh, Tim. I was saying that he did the whole like
Uh-huh.
I met him because he did the whole lounge area at the conference and was like the lounge area host, and
Ah, that's so
it was
cool.
just fun to have like an activity area, and he did like dev trivia and stuff, like just silly stuff. And then there was also
Oh.
little like mini speaker sessions there, which this conference was also the one I saw my first session presented by a deaf person, so it was fully in sign language. There was
That's so
an
cool.
interpreter there to speak as well, but he was the presenter, and I was like, this is amazing, and
That's so interesting. I love that.
yeah, I thought it was really cool. And talked about a lot of kind of challenges of being a developer that can't hear, and this like interviewing and this like different kind of struggles that he had in his like tech journey. I thought
Right,
it
I
was
can
really
imagine.
really interesting.
It must be really difficult, but I guess the one plus is that like if you are a developer and you work maybe remotely, maybe a lot of the communication does happen, on the internet, through text.
Hopefully. But yeah,
And
and I
yeah,
would think that
so
too,
that
but
would
he
be like a
was
plus
talking
versus
about
like a job where you have to actually like
yeah,
consistently, talk to people and
that's
stuff in real
true.
life.
But yeah, it depends. I mean, like I was
Hey,
surprised at how
but
many ways that he had been discriminated against and just made to feel less than, even though like it's just that he communicates differently.
that's
And
wild.
so yeah, because I would have thought, oh, this is solvable, especially in tech. But yeah, he still had a lot of struggles and a lot of hard times with different companies. And so it was, but it's again why like that representation matters, like having all different kinds of people present at a conference to be able to tell you like their actual experience and say like, no, like you might think you know what this is like, but let me tell you the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool.
That's true. I love those kinds of talks too, where the speaker actually like shares some of their personal story. I noticed that at that conference, a lot of the keynotes, I think Clark, tells them to do this or something. It's like a requirement to share your
Well, it's
personal
like a
story or
90-minute
something.
keynote there, right? Like that's
Yeah,
a whew. I can't imagine talking for 90 minutes like to an
right.
audience. Like that's whew.
But they're
I
really
haven't been out live long
impactful.
enough.
They end up like really sharing their life stories and all of the ups and downs and stuff. So it's really interesting to kind of hear like everybody's perspective and what they've gone through. I know
Yeah.
some people in the chat. Richard has heard that conference keynotes before, so he knows what I'm
Nice.
talking about.
Yeah, I gotta
Um,
get to one of those.
yeah, and then the thing you mentioned
Hi,
about like
Upa.
Tim doing the like the what is it, the fun room or something,
Yeah, like it was like the dev or the community lounge or whatever they called it.
okay, the
But yeah.
lounge. Yeah, so I've been to that conference twice. The first time they didn't do this, but the last time I went, so the most recent that conference, they did this like new thing where I think it was PJ and Andrew. So PJ Metz, I don't know if you know him. And
Oh
then
gosh, yeah, I got to meet him once. So it's been a long time, I think.
right.
Yeah, but he was great.
And then Andrew, I forgot Andrew's last name, but they're like best friends, I guess. And they were the MCs on the stage, and they hosted a bunch of like community panel things. So like at the last minute, maybe you could like get up there and participate. Like you're just a random person attending
Oh,
that conference, and they're like, "Hey, you want to
it's like
discuss
the
with us?" It's kind of
what do
cool.
they call that? Not the hall. It's not the hallway track, but it's like you can sign up for a spot, right? It's like that.
The open spaces.
Yeah, you sign up for an open
It's
space,
it's
right?
not the open spaces are like topics, and then you go sit at the table with other people and like discuss the topic. But this one is like on the main stage. So like for example, one of
Oh,
them was Shashi hosted it, and
yeah.
then it was about like conferences, I guess. Like should you go to a tech conference? And Richard was up there. I was there. Chris Snowicki was there.
Yeah.
I
Mr.
think a
Wicks
couple,
himself.
right, Mr. Wicks, yes. And I think there was like 8 or 9 of us up there with Shashi, and we were just talking about it. So it was being live streamed. And then we were also on the main stage, so it felt really cool. Like, I'm part of this
Oh,
conference too. I don't know. That's the vibes that
that
I
is
got.
really
So it
cool.
was a lot different than the first time I went to that conference. Like, I had a really good experience, but I felt like this time it was, you felt like you were really involved in it on
That's
to the
cool.
next
I love
level.
that. Yeah, that you bring that. Yeah, Clark, and I know like everybody says this, but it just every time you hear any like little detail, it's like he's clearly built something very special for
Yeah.
people, and that's why people talk about it the way they do. So
Yeah, it definitely is really special. Like, I always advocate for it. It's just an amazing conference, and I think, it's definitely due to Clark and like the whole team that runs it. He puts a lot of like his own heart into it, and kind of choosing the talks and helping
yeah.
people um prepare their talk. So like if you get accepted, I think he like coaches you and stuff and
Oh,
helps
that's
you
really
prepare your
nice.
talk. Yeah, so all of
Maybe
the
that's where
talks
your
are like
first conference talk
very
should be.
good.
Do that conference.
Yeah, I do think that if I did a talk at a conference, I think it would be cool if the first one was at that conference, just because I have a lot of like good memories and stuff, and that was my first
Yeah,
conference ever. So I think I'd probably do that first, but I don't know. We'll see
that would be a
if
cool
Clark
one, or
accepts
anyone
me.
that's like, oh, yeah, no, he like I said, everybody gets rejected. I got rejected from that conference, but that's
I
okay because
know.
I ended up at another one that I would have had to choose one or the other, if I
Yeah.
got accepted to both. So it worked out.
Yeah, and Clark, I think he, wants people to keep applying and stuff. So
Oh yeah, totally. That's the thing. Yeah, if any, I don't know how many people are in the chat or not, but seriously, if you haven't spoken before and you want to, like, you will get rejected a lot. I've gotten rejected from most places I applied to speak to, but you also will get accepted. Just and you can submit the same talk everywhere.
that's cool.
And if it's not working, you can tweak it and this and that. Like, and you can also give the same talk again if you only have one idea that you think is worthy of a talk right now. That's okay, you can give it to other places too because the audiences are different and talks are like living things. Like you're not a robot just kind of like saying the same words over again. Like it's going to have its own life based on the audience and everything.
Yeah. Especially if you do sort of interactive things in your talk, you ask questions and stuff.
Yeah.
Sophia. Oh yeah, and also
Hi,
Roxy.
Sophia.
Roxy was on the stage too at that conference. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then it's Andrew McLean. I don't know if I said that right.
I'm
McLean.
really bad at names. That's why I was
I'm
like, Tim,
bad.
I think his last name is Petruski
I'm
with
bad at
the
names
community
and
guy.
faces. It's really bad. Like, I don't have, yeah. So like somebody, I remember, I don't know if I don't think Dominic's here, but like that conference is okay. DevOps Days was totally fine. Like the amount of people that go to those conferences was fine for me, but Render was like too many people. So people would
Too
come
many
up to
people.
me and I like literally forgot that I had just talked to them like an hour before. Like, cause I'm really not good with faces or names. So I'm
I
like, I
am, but
have
yeah, when
to,
it's that many, it's like
it's
too
hard. I'm
much
like,
going
oh,
on.
we just talked. You'd have to say something very weird, very strange for me to remember, or
Yeah.
you have to have like some very interesting colored hair or something like that. Like
Some
Rachel with the purple hair. Like I'll always
or be
remember
dressed up
them,
as a
right?
wizard. Like
Right. I'll always remember. Although it's funny because when I saw them, like Abby and Kayla, like I did not recognize them at all. I was like, what?
well, yeah,
These
no.
people are talking to me. I was scared. and then and they were like, hey.
Yeah, I didn't recognize them at first either. I was like, y'all look great. And then they were
She
like,
like the beard moment.
like
And I'm like,
I went to say hi and like and tell the people that I didn't think I knew that I loved their costume. And then I was like, wait, I do know that.
she had to actually like remove her beard for me to know who she was. So I was like, okay.
Reasonable.
I love Abby though because she's the first person. Like when I went to that conference, I was so scared because it was the first time I went to any tech event. I'd never even been to like a meetup, And I remember like getting there like 7 a.m, to go to breakfast. And I'm like looking around the room. And Clark said to me, like on our call before, he was like, you can sit down with random people and like they will let you sit with them and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah, it's like
okay,
a friendly space.
cool. Yeah, so I'm
Like
thinking like
the
these people are not going to reject me from sitting at their table. So I look around and I'm like looking for the nicest person in the room, and I saw Abby sitting there alone, and I was like, oh,
oh,
maybe she's new too. She looks pretty nice. And then I sit next to her and she's like, I've been going here for like 10 years. I don't remember how long, but it
you're
was
like,
funny.
oh,
She was so
okay.
nice.
Yeah, totally. Oh man.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, it's always, like I tend to get very shy if there's so many people, but
Yeah.
it's just like most things in life, it's never that bad once you just like dive in and start chatting with somebody.
Yeah, I think it's if usually I think there's a saying or something, it's like you're thinking about things and thinking about yourself way more than other people are, or something like
Oh
those
yeah.
people are not even thinking about you and what you're doing, but like
No,
we always overthink what we're doing and what people are thinking. So I
exactly.
always think about that in those situations. I'm like, nobody cares. Even if I like went up to a table and like said something
Mm.
weird, they would forget probably, but I would remember forever. So that's just how it goes. um but yeah, and I don't know I don't know if Nick sent a GIF. I can't see it because I don't know if you can even send
Yeah,
GIFs on
I
Twitch. I
guess
don't think you can.
not not that we can see, or not that I
maybe,
can see.
maybe this means something. It means it's like a meme or something. I don't get it. I'm bad with like references and jokes like that. You
He
can't
says
send
you
GIFs.
can't, so he's
I
making
didn't get it. Oh,
he's
you read that in Slack? Okay.
Slack would let you.
Oh, I don't know. I only am part of 2 groups on Slack, that conference group and then the group that you invited me to with the DevRel people.
Oh, the DevRel group. Yeah, Jim's
Yeah.
in there. You're what is that? He'd be your manager?
Yeah, he's like the DevRel lead.
The
He's
lead,
like
the lead.
yeah, he's like our guide through the fog.
So Jim is your beacon of light.
Exactly. Jim is the source of clarity for all of our problems. So
Oh. No,
but
it's a
anyway.
good spot if you have questions, especially about tools and stuff like that. I see a lot of people like, because as DevRel, you're looking for different community tools or different streaming platforms or
Mhm.
different places to host your hackathon. And like
It's a
sometimes you're not
lot.
liking whatever you're using. You're like, hey, what are you guys using? What's good? Or like everybody was using Orbit for community management,
Mhm.
and then Orbit it went away. So it's like, what is everybody doing now? And so
Yeah. Everybody's just now lost in the chaos of Discord, I guess.
yeah,
Who
it's
knows?
I mean, we're looking for new analytics tools now, but it takes, well, I guess it depends on the company. A company the size of Wix has a lot of process involved with
Uh,
buying software. So we're still evaluating options. But
there's
it's
so
not,
many things
I'm used
going
to it.
on
My
at the
first
same
job was in
time.
government contracting. I'm like used to having
Oh,
process to to do
that's
things.
how did you do that? How'd you get into that?
Well, I live near Washington, D.C., so there's a lot
Mhm.
of government work around here. So when I got out of college, I had some I had 2 internships when I was in college. One was at the Department of Public Works. So I got to map where all the sewer lines were.
Very
And then
interesting.
do lots of really boring data entry. And then the other one was with the federal government. So I also had 2 government internships. So then, and had security clearance at that point. And then,
Wow.
yeah, which I don't have anymore, but it was at the time very, very helpful in getting a job out of college. So because it takes a long time and it's really expensive to sponsor somebody for clearance. So if you have it already,
Oh.
they're like, please come work for us. Like I got weird job offers for things that I didn't know how
Can
to
you just
do because
apply as like an individual or do you need to go
mm-mm,
through a company?
has to be sponsored by the government
Oh.
or like by some other kind of authority
Because
that
I
can
have
do it.
seen like, jobs
Hmm.
require that or ask for it. So I didn't know that
Yeah.
it was like a really big deal, and
Yeah.
I
It's
thought it
like an
was like something
actual
that you can just like
requirement.
apply for. Oh, that's
No,
interesting.
yeah, sometimes so yeah, if it's a job that says it's required, then it's like a legit like you can't do the job without it. It probably means that
Mhm.
they do work with the government. That's secretive. If they
Oh.
say you must be able to pass it, that just means if you do a lot of drugs, don't apply or something like that. Like,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
if you're a criminal and you probably won't pass the kind of background check the federal government is interested in,
If you're
at
a
least in the US
criminal
here. I don't know about
developer.
other companies. I don't know what other countries like, I assume everybody has their own like security and government-y thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's how I ended up being government contracting because I kind of like had the right stuff. Just the right amount of drugs. I was so
Very good
nervous when I had to
advice.
get
Everybody
clearance. I
take
was
that
just like,
advice.
they're very scary. Like I said, I don't know if anybody in here has had to go through the process, but it was absolutely terrifying.
No.
Because
That
they
does
made
sound scary.
the basic they well, it's you know, it's the government and they take things seriously. So, but then the work I did, like I never ended up needing to use it. It was funny. Like I had it and it helped get me interviews at the time. But the contractor I worked for, none of the work I worked on was secret in any way. So, which is good
Oh,
because there's other things you have to do in protocols. Like you will never work remotely if you have to work on like super secret
oh
government work
no.
because um, they want you in the office where they can control all the machines.
Yeah, I guess that makes
So
sense.
yeah, so my work was more like with local governments and stuff like that. So it wasn't like secretive at all.
That sounds cool though. So you went from that and now you're in DevRel. Is it is
There, yeah, it
I
was just straight. It was a straight line
just
just
straight
from
line like you
that.
were like, DevRel
I
seems like
was
a
like,
good
I'm going to
leap
be
to
a top
make.
secret spy, but actually, no.
Yeah, I actually during this stream I wanted like one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you was like how did you get here? But I don't know how much
I
time you have
don't
left
know.
because now we've been talking for like an hour, over an hour, so I
Oh
don't know.
man. Well, because we just had all these great side
I know.
quests.
I know we went on like so many side quests that I missed the point, but I love that we know the answer now that it was just directly
It was
from
a direct line.
secret spy
Yeah.
work to DevRel.
Maybe I'm still doing secret spy work
This
in
is your like
DevRel.
cover up job, right? Like your LinkedIn, you have like some
Yeah.
software developer, web developer experience, and then you have like this Wix job,
Yeah.
but it's all fake, right? Because you're actually a
Hmm.
spy.
After I get off this stream, you're never going to be able to find me again. It'll be like, she's been scrubbed from the internet. We don't know what happened.
Oh no, they're gonna be like, someone found out Amanda. They found out the truth, and she didn't
Yeah.
deny it.
No. No.
Terrible. But
No, but
anyway,
yeah, I was doing map making and I got like internally recruited into a dev team.
oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah,
They're
because
like,
I like
you
sat
have
next to them.
potential.
Yeah, because I worked in like a tech adjacent thing where like I knew a little bit of
Oh,
like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I knew a little bit of Python. But I mostly did spatial analysis. Bye, Roxy.
hi Roxy.
And like
That's
I
cool.
designed like geospatial databases and like did like I worked, it was like water engineering place. So I did a lot of like floodplain mapping. Like I helped a city nearby figure out how to decide how to charge for stormwater taxes based on like the amount of impervious surface, and you use like GIS to do all of that and like a lot of
That's
math.
cool.
So yeah, and then I like went and presented like all the findings to them and how they could decide how to charge taxes for this that nobody wants. um, so I did stuff like that, and but like the dev team would like every once in a while need like something simple, like some mapping thing, but they needed it for a web application or something, and so I could do a little bit. So they'd just give me. And I understood like with geospatial data, the biggest thing to understand about it, a lot of people think it's scary, but the biggest thing to understand about it is that the earth is round and we're viewing everything flat. So
Are
it
you sure
depending
about
on what
that?
you're
I heard a
mapping,
lot of people say the Earth is not round.
well, yeah, depending on what you believe here. I'm starting from the earth is round. And
We're coming from
my
that
whole education
perspective.
was based on that the earth is round. but,
Right.
but the biggest problem with that is so once you kind of break that apart, now it's flat. And this is where all the math comes in. But you have to
Mhm.
know, all you have to know is what matters. Like if I'm looking at, Google Maps and I'm in my car and my car is here and it's driving along the road, like there's a lot of things that don't have to be necessarily accurate. I need to know where I am in space. I need to know where I am in relation to like my next exit, but I don't
Mhm.
necessarily need everything to be perfect on that map in certain ways. So, but there's sometimes where distance is really, really important and it needs to be accurate. And as you start to like, I think the most common example people use is like the map that you see in school. It's the Mercator projection. It's
Mhm.
only accurate at the center of the map, and then as it gets away, you notice the continents. Everything starts to stretch,
Yeah.
and it's because they had to like smush it around to get it to fit. And so there's
Oh.
different projections you use for different reasons.
Now
So
I don't
that's the
trust
only
maps.
you can't. No, actually, you should never
Oh,
touch.
no.
My favorite thing about to tell people about maps is like maps are absolutely tools of lying.
Oh, no. That's terrible, and also it depends on, like, which country you're from and whether they have a different map, right? Because, like, I
Yes,
know in
it's
China, they put,
hugely
like, China
political.
in the
Maps are
middle,
so
right?
political. There's a
So
great map. Well, okay, there's a lot of really cool. I freaking love maps. I guess. So there's if you look at like political maps, a lot of people, and actually probably Russia is probably super. There's probably ones you could find currently that if you find the local version of a map and where like their political boundaries are, sometimes they'll just draw them wherever, like, and they'll be like, we own all this. And so
Oh,
it
and then
happened
it's
in
like, "But
the
you don't?"
yeah, and you don't, or there's a lot of ones. So the way people used to like uh maps, maps were kind of like an art too, so you'd have like map makers that would draw these maps too, so to like sign their work they'd like make up fake towns and like put them in so they'd
Oh
know
my
if
god.
somebody copied their work because it would have this fake town on it, and they're like, that doesn't exist, you stole my map. And like, so there's like all kinds of crazy map history like that.
That's so funny.
Yeah, just, and
That's
then
so
like of
cool,
course,
though, like
yeah, right, there's like, because it was this place where like art and science and like a useful tool come together. It's a little different now with everything being digital, but I'm sure there's still stuff out there like that
well,
that are different
then are
stories.
globes more accurate? Like, if you look at a globe, the
Well,
sizes of everything?
it depends on who made it, right? So the map
Right.
maker makes the decision. So I decide what goes on
Mm.
that globe. I decide that I still made the US the biggest, you know?
Right, maybe I need to, like, go look at some globes. Yeah, I need
But
to
yeah,
go
it
to Europe,
depends.
look at some globes.
Yeah.
Like,
It
next time I
should be
travel somewhere, I'm gonna be like,
theoretically.
"Where's the globe store? I need to check it out," and, like, send pictures to
Yeah.
Amanda. "Here's this globe."
Theoretically, if they're being honest, the globe is gonna be the most accurate. But
Right.
my understanding, if we're really talking about science, is like if you say the poles are magnetic, I think everything kind of like can is not exactly a circle either. So
Oh, so we're, like,
I
on an
don't
oval
remember.
or
There's
something?
all these kind of weird things. But yeah, so
Oh.
maps are can be tools of liars. Any map that you see, somebody decided what you got to see and what you didn't. So like
Scary.
a map, yeah, like because if you put every single thing that like if you look at a part of the earth and you put every single thing there, every tree, every house, every road, like it'd be too much to look at. So you just say like, what's the point of this map? And then you decide what needs to be on the map. So but somebody, a human, decides that, and we're all full of errors.
Right. That is really cool, though, but that also makes me think of, like, those people that, you send them, like, a picture of, like, a part of a table and a napkin or something, and then they find out, like, what exact cafe that is and where, and, like, which table it is, and there's, like, literally nothing else, or, like, maybe, like, a partial of a little part of a tree, and they're like, "I know where you live." It's like, "Oh my god." So some I guess, yeah, that's why people say, like, you should never post, like, the outside of your house or anything
Mhm.
near your house on the internet because people can, like, find it out.
It's
Not maybe
so
not normal,
easy to
but
image search now
that's
too. Like
crazy.
my like I mean this it's a Google phone, so it's already, Pixel's already built into it. But like I can just like push a button and circle anything on my phone and
Oh,
it'll
no.
pull me up everything that it can find on the internet about it. Like, and you used to have to like know how to do like a reverse image search and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like and now it's just like a part of
scary.
your normal phone stock tools.
Right.
And I'm
So
like,
so
oh,
after your map
oh, that's
life,
right. We
and
see
then you
another
became
side
and then
quest.
they started, like, picking they started assigning these, like, tasks to you that were sort of
Yeah, like
developer
they just
related
needed
tasks?
some stuff to do, and then eventually they needed to hire somebody. And so I was an internal hire, so they offered me the job. They were like, "Do you want to
Oh.
do this?" And I was
Was
like,
that like a level up from your original job, or was it kind of the same level of
it was at first the same level.
Mhm.
I actually didn't know, so I didn't know that theoretically it should have been like more money, this and that. Like I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know anything about developers. I like it just never occurred to me to even consider that. I thought it was just a lot of math, and I was like, I don't want to just do math all day. But then I ended up making maps, and that's math as well. So I just can't get away
Right.
from it apparently. And so I was like, sure. And I think it was kind of like a trial period at first. Like in
Oh.
some ways, I think I just
They're
got
like, "If
to
it
it.
doesn't
I
work
think
out,
if
we'll
I was
send her back to the
terrible,
maps."
it was terrifying. Like, but I think it's just like the team was so nice, and I am also an overachiever, so
Mhm.
I had all of this new stuff to learn, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have to be good at this. All these people are so smart." Like, and so their main stack at the time was C#.net, which was a
Oh.
terrifying first thing to do when all I knew was a little bit of Python, a little
Mhm.
bit of HTML, like dragging the HTML, CSS,
Right.
and JavaScript file over like to a
I don't know if
server.
this is controversial, but I feel like C# is way easier than, like, if you were to learn JavaScript or something first.
At the
I
time,
don't know
it was
why.
terrifying, and I
Was
think
it
it also
harder at
because
the
I was
time?
learning it within the .NET framework too, and that
Okay.
was also terrifying, and
Uh,
um, but like, I learned little by little, and then I would go home. I would because I would also be asking, like, a million questions. I was fully in office, so I was just talking to people all the time, and half the time I didn't even know what they were saying to me because I didn't know any of the words that people use to describe code and like and things
right.
like I didn't know anything. So I would just go home and then try to learn more. So I was basically it was one of those periods, and I know like everybody there's always one of those like arguments that breaks out on Twitter every once in a while. It's like you have periods in your life where it's like okay that you're in like complete hustle mode. And so like I decided I wanted this after like a little bit and I was like okay, so I would work all day and really be tuned in and then I'd be working at home on the evenings and weekends and like trying to learn everything I could because I didn't know about like tech communities. I didn't know
Mhm.
about anything. I didn't know there was a whole world of people out here that were self-taught. I thought this was something you had to go to school for and I was like couldn't believe that I was being allowed to do this. So I was just like panic learning. Um, and then it just it got easier like eventually and then I was allowed to do more and more and it's just like it kind of like happens slowly. But you have like these little things that are exciting and they just get you and this is how kind of coding is like when you
Yeah.
learn something and get something working or you get kind of over a hump that you were having then you're like reinvigorated for the next hard thing that you've got to figure out and they had some other kinds of things too. Like there was some WordPress sites for local governments, which of course is a much gentler way to get involved with code in a lot of ways. It's its own problem to learn too, because and I deal with this talking to people about a low code system as well. It's like you assume it's easier, but it's actually got its own oddities to learn. It's just different. But it is easier in
Yeah.
some ways. PHP is a lot more approachable, I think, in a
Yeah,
lot of
everybody's
ways.
been talking about PHP,
It's
right?
so
Like,
funny to
everybody
me how
I love
much people are talking
PHP.
about PhD right now,
I'm
but
like,
it was
"Man, I
yeah.
don't wanna." I feel like tech Twitter is hard because then it's like, "Oh, should I try this really cool thing that everyone's talking about, or should I not?" And it's like you only have so much time in your life to do stuff. Eh,
Yeah, do
so
what you want. I did PHP and Laravel for a while, but I haven't worked on that in a long time, but it was nice to have that, in addition to learning .NET because it was different, and
Mhm.
then, like, we had a mobile app that we were working on, and then, we just had a lot of different things, and it was interesting work, and everybody was really kind and patient with all of my crazy questions there, and, like,
That's
it was the kind
awesome.
of team where it had, like, developers that were, like, there since the beginning of time, so they had all that, like, institutional
Oh.
knowledge, so it was really, really helpful, and, like, just really, really nice people, and then it was a 90-minute commute though, so after about 4 years, I could not manage that anymore, so then
Yeah,
I
that's a
found a
lot.
job closer to home. Um,
That sounds like a
and that
good
was
first
yeah,
kinda experience, you
it
know?
really was. I was
Yeah, it
really,
sounds
really,
like a
really
really good, like,
lucky.
learning environment, you know?
Yeah, but it shows you never really know, like, I I just kind of always said yes to things. So like when the dev team needed some little things, like when I was still primarily making maps and they were like, and like I was talking to somebody, it was like just a random conversation. They were like, "Hey, do you happen to know how to do whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I
Oh.
can." Like I tried that in school once or something, and like, and you just kind of like never know. And so just kind of like follow your interests. Like I wouldn't have thought I would have ended up here. And then like as I ended up in more in dev, then DevRel was just more of kind of that evolution of realizing that I liked the people side of stuff and trying to
Mhm.
figure out what jobs are available. And I only knew about like project or product management. And I was like, well, I could manage people, but I didn't know if that was the way I wanted to go. I knew a lot of really miserable product managers at the
Oh,
moment.
no.
So I was just like, man, this doesn't seem like this is fun. I know more product managers that are happy now, but at the time I was like, I don't know that that's the move. They all seem pretty unhappy.
Oh, no. So
But I
sad.
found out about DevRel randomly because somebody wrote a blog about it and like one of those day in the life kind of things. And I was like, oh, this is kind of neat.
That's
So
cool.
when I was applying for dev jobs after that job, I was also applying for DevRel jobs, just kind of like,
Oh.
and there weren't that many. Like I literally everybody I talked to about it, and I was like, "Hey, have you heard of this?" Nobody. I couldn't find anybody who'd ever heard of it. I found like a couple of blogs about it. It was like before everybody started
Right.
talking
I
about
heard
it,
that it,
like
like,
out of
recently
nowhere.
blew up, right?
Yeah,
So
so it was like just before I think that like all of a sudden everybody knew about it and everybody was making content about it because I after I found that one blog article out, I was like, "Oh, let me see if I can figure out more about this." And it was like it was almost like it was made up. Like there weren't that many jobs. There weren't that wasn't that much content about it. But I just Wix happened to be hiring for that, and I was like, "Oh, I've used
That's so
Wix
cool.
before." So and so I was just like, "Let me see what happens."
That's so awesome. I love that. And yeah, it is interesting that it recently kind of blew up more than before. I don't
It's
know
crazy.
what happened, but
I feel like it's
I
not a
guess
great time for it to have blown up. That there, I feel like there's
yeah.
less jobs right
Well,
now
I
for
think it's because of the whole like remote life thing that we
mm,
went through with 2020 and
yeah,
stuff, and then
that whole thing.
maybe like a lot of people were working online, and then more online stuff was happening, and people were
Mm.
like, "Hey, my cool product." I don't know. Maybe somehow
Online
more
hackathons,
people.
online conferences. Yeah,
Yeah,
companies had to figure out how to reach people when they were going in person, I think, and
exactly.
they
So
like
I think that like it kind of opened up a new thing for people to do. Like, hey, we need somebody
yeah.
to doing all this stuff that we can't have like the engineers be taking their time to do this. Maybe they don't even want to do this. So
Buy code and crochet.
hi Maggie. But yeah, it is really cool your story. I think it's like also sort of fate. A lot of things just happen, and it's like and also
Yeah.
you know it. I feel like right now where I am in my life, I'm like intentionally trying to choose things, but at the same time, like even though you try to go one direction, sometimes you end up going somewhere else because like
Oh
maybe there's
yeah.
a really cool offer or something, and it's really hard to exactly plan where you're gonna go next. So
Yeah.
I
I
thought that
always
was
tell
really
people like
interesting.
have a plan, but don't like overplay. Like don't be rigid so
Right.
that you
Don't be
miss
like
that
stuck
opportunity.
to it,
Yeah, if I was super rigid in like whatever kind of like the future of focusing on GIS was, I probably would have never said yes to the people on the
Yeah.
developer team. And it's like you do have to give yourself the space to say yes to something you didn't expect.
Yeah. I totally agree. You gotta, keep the door open to opportunity. I think it's like when one door closes, another one opens or a window
Something, one
opens
of
or
those
something.
things.
One of those things.
Something opens.
But I
Punch
definitely
a
do
hole through
agree
the
with that.
wall.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
like prior to working at Pieces, I applied to the Microsoft Leap program a
Oh,
couple
cool.
months
Yeah.
ago, and I didn't get in. I think also because I didn't understand that you had to like put your referral in before you applied. Like I thought they would ask me like at the
Oh.
end, but then I got to the end and they didn't ask me, and I was like, oh no! And then you can't like resubmit your application.
Oh.
Yeah, because I actually had a referral, so I was like, oh, and then anyway, I was like, that sucks.
I applied for a job one time and didn't attach my resume like I thought I did.
Oh
And
no.
then I realized when I clicked submit and they didn't have any form validation. And it let me
Yeah,
submit all this information without my actual resume.
that's
I
so
got very
weird.
quickly auto rejected, probably for not having all of the materials
Right.
in the application.
It sucks. Yeah, anyway, I Microsoft needs to fix that because they don't like they should have some kind of section like, "Hey, do you have a referral?" Like you shouldn't be submitting. You have to like use an entirely different like submission portal thing if you have a referral. So it's really weird. I did not
Oh,
know that
yeah.
at all. So
Oh, yeah.
anyway,
But you
but
know what?
I
But
was
this worked
upset
out.
about it, right? But then like you know, moving on, I started hearing things about like DevRel, and then I was like, oh, maybe that's kind of cool. I do stuff related to that, anyways. And then yeah, now I'm here, so it worked out. But I
It
was
worked
very
out.
upset at the moment, like at that time.
Yeah, yeah, you can still mourn the loss of things that you wanted, but I always tell people, I'm like, if you're too rigid, then yeah, you're gonna miss something. You never
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
because it was definitely a lot of saying yes, a lot of jumping in the deep end for me because I like I said, I never focused on programming. It was like I had some technical skills and some math skills, but it just wasn't something I ever thought about. And if I would have been going logically, I would have been like, well, no, I don't know how to do that. Like, I can't
right,
do that. Instead, I
like
was
that
like, yeah,
doesn't make
sure.
sense. Oh,
Yeah, it was
Toby's
very,
here. Hey, Toby.
Toby.
Yeah, we're gonna end the stream pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah, we've been going here. There's been everything. We've got squeaky toys here. We've got
Yeah. Toby's gonna be in my Twitter space tomorrow. So it's on the Pieces account. It's about how CS students use AI in their workflow. So I
Ooh, I
think
love
it'll
that.
be pretty cool. Got some CS students, and two of them I actually met at the DevOps days. So they're real life CS students.
Real life
Crazy.
students.
Real life students. Yeah, I had to like convince them to make Twitter accounts. I was like, no, there is cool people on Twitter. They have
That's
like
so
one
funny.
follower, me, you know.
I always try to remind myself and my marketing team and everyone in DevRel, until I started this job, I did not use my Twitter account
Yeah.
at all. I became a developer fully with never being aware of the internet.
Right. I believe I found out that so many people in real life, the real people, they don't even use Twitter. And
They're
a
just
lot
out
of
there
them,
building things. Nobody
right.
knows about it. What are they
There was
doing?
like it was like 95% of the people at this conference. I'm just guessing, this is my number guessing, but we were in this open space which turned out to be like 40 people, and then people like Rashab was there. I don't know if you know him from Twitter. He
That
was
name
like
is very familiar.
right, he was like build in public, and then I raised my hand. I was like, yeah, on Twitter, and then everyone was like, what?
Fake
It was like
Shashi's here.
100 days of code. But no, nobody,
Yeah,
they
but it
were
was
like,
crazy. I
nobody's
didn't
on Twitter.
know. I didn't know all of you people were here, and I'm so glad I've met all of you. It was so
I
funny, like,
know.
'cause I would have really benefited from having a community early on in my journey because I was panicking on a daily basis and had nobody else to panic with and know that like I was
Right.
not just alone in my panic of learning. So I was like, luckily, like I said, a very supportive team, but having a community of other like junior developers or just other people out in the world in general. So I wasn't like, it was just all me like sweating night after night
Yeah.
watching C# tutorials.
Yeah, I think being in a community definitely helps, if especially if it's like a Discord community or something where everybody in there is more, trustworthy, and maybe they're your actual friends. Maybe you met them somehow on the internet or on a video call.
Oh,
I think the only thing about Twitter is like if you post something and you're like, hey, I'm struggling with this, can anyone help me? Then there's always going to be like some weird people that are saying mean
yeah.
things, so I think
Hopefully
there
not
is a
too
good
many.
side, right? There's like a good community on Twitter, but there's also like a portion of people that they might say things that like discourage the person from doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to kind of put up your blinders and say like, okay, I'm not gonna pay
Yeah.
attention to these people.
Mute, block,
And
mute, block,
yeah,
mute, block, mute,
exactly.
block. I
But
do
I
think
think
that tech Twitter is primarily a good place. I think a lot of
yes.
the kind of more troll like people, I think that they get um you know, really kind of dealt with. At least when I see most of the time, I feel like they get dealt with pretty well by by the community and just being like, we're not doing that here.
Right. I think they do, unless like your post goes viral or something, then of course you're gonna get like a bunch
If
of
it
trolls. So
escapes the bubble, there's nothing you can do.
right, right. Yeah. But
Then
I
you
think
just
for the
gotta
most
go
part,
dark for a few days.
if for the most part, if you're posting like, hey, I'm learning this new concept, like people are gonna be pretty
People are
nice and
pretty
pretty
kind, or
normal.
you
So
can find that those kind groups of people.
right,
But
right.
yeah, I had no community. It was just me out here struggling, like the dark ages for no reason.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're on Twitter now and on
Yeah,
LinkedIn and in the
yeah,
community
I'm everywhere.
online bubble. But I
That
think
was
it
the
is kind of a
hardest thing for
bubble,
me
right?
becoming a developer advocate, though, because I was like, I know I like helping developers. I didn't know about the social media necessity around that.
Oh,
I was like, all the developers I knew weren't online. I didn't understand it.
right.
I was like, well, why would I do that? But I get it now, but it took me a long time to engage that part of the job. Like, whereas I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
other people that are into DevRel are social media forward, like they're content
right.
creators, and now they're interested in, making that into a job for a company. Whereas I was the opposite. I was like doing the work and like mentoring junior developers on my team, and I was like, oh, it would be cool to do this, like, I don't know, at scale.
Right.
um, I
That's
didn't
really
know that
interesting. You
it
went
was, so
in,
I
yeah,
came
you
from
went
the
in from it
opposite
like in the
world.
reverse
Yeah,
way.
I was
Yeah.
not a content creator other than writing docs that nobody saw but people on my team. So I remember when I did my interview for Wix, I was like, I don't have public facing content. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I it was just like, it was all, that was the shocking part of the job to me. I was like, I
Richard
do all
is a
the
huge
docs,
doc person,
I do all
by
the
the way.
walkthrough videos for our clients. Docs. Oh, right.
He
Yes.
loves docs.
Another docs
But
person. I
yeah,
love good
that is
docs.
really
I don't write
interesting.
docs at Wix, but we have a whole great docs team. There's a whole team of
Amazing.
people to do that.
Richard, apply for the docs team at Wix.
Oh, you
I don't know
never
if Wix
know.
is
Yeah, I mean,
hiring, but
if you ever see anything on there that I can refer you to, most of Wix is not, and I don't know where you are, but is not in the US and is not remote friendly. We are
I
not actually a
know.
remote forward company. We're more of a hybrid company. My job is remote, but there are very few jobs that are
Oh,
remote.
sad. Richard's in like New
Yeah.
York, New Jersey, but
Well, we have an office in New York, so you never know.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. And I came in from the other direction. Like I'm already on social media, so I'm like, oh, everybody in tech is on social media. And now I'm like, actually, the majority of people are not here. We just live in this like online bubble of people, but actually the majority of developers are just normal people that don't like social media or just don't use it at all. Or maybe they just don't
Yeah.
like Twitter. They're somewhere else. I don't know where they are. Maybe they just don't post any tech content. They're like, hey, look at my cat or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's
It's
really
helpful to
interesting.
remember though, because then you're like, okay, well, how do I reach people that are in different kinds of places? Like,
Right.
where are developers that don't care so much about social media? Where do they look for content? And like, I still went to YouTube. I didn't like interact on YouTube. I just
Yeah.
used it. But so I was still going to find videos, and I'm a reader, so I was really into technical blog posts. I can't speak, which is why I'm not on now. That's why I'm so good on camera. It's so yeah, it reminds you to think of like there's a lot of ways that people want to receive information, and then some people want it more socially and not. I didn't go to my first tech conference. I went to one while I was a developer, but
Oh.
wasn't like I had to like write a whole proposal about why I was going, why it was beneficial for me and for the company. And it was a very cheap conference too. It wasn't like a crazy one. It was actually a PHP conference. That was my first conference that I ever went to, because
Oh.
I was the only person on the team that they would give the PHP projects to, because I was newer and I don't think anybody else wanted to do them, which
Oh
is
no.
weird because PHP is having a moment now, so everybody wants it.
Right.
But so I was like, well, I should go to a conference and learn about what people do in this world, because nobody here cares about it. I was
Yeah,
like, so I need to
I
find some
do
people
think
to learn from.
people that aren't really online also do somehow end up at conferences too.
Hmm.
But there are so
Yeah.
many people. I think YouTube is a good way, and like blogs. Although I heard the like Google algorithm is weird now because of the, AI suggestions, and then they don't kind of like suggest you to read blogs anymore as much. Because I've heard a lot of people like are getting less views on their blogs because of that change. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird,
I could see that.
but
There's
I'm not sure.
it'll all shake out. I feel like if
Yeah.
you have, yeah, you just gotta, everybody's gotta figure out how to distribute stuff right now. I know a lot of people have leaned on newsletters, or like you said, if you're in various communities now, I think, yeah, especially with all AI and everything that's going on with all the different algorithms and people trying to get attention every way they can, then yeah, having your kind of like interest communities is more important than ever.
Do you
It
have a
seems.
newsletter, by the way?
No, I don't. I read newsletters.
Right. I've seen a lot of people like they're like, oh, I'm starting a newsletter. I almost started one. I was setting up my beehive and stuff, but then I was like, oh, there's way too many settings, like the color settings. There were so many settings that like I just could not go through the whole thing within a short period of time. So I was like, I'll do this later. And then
I
I
know
never did.
a lot of
So
people seem to use Substack. I don't know,
I don't know
but
why I
I
just
guess
like
that's
the
where.
beehive logo. So I'm like,
Isn't that funny?
I'm
There's all
like one
these
of those
weird
people, like
reasons
I'll
why
choose
we
something
choose
for
a
the
product.
logo. That, yeah,
Hmm.
well, yeah, that's why I don't post on Hashnode because I like the dev.to, I mean, yeah, dev.to, the like the interface on there. And I don't
I
know, I
do
like the
too.
little
That's actually
stickers.
how I ended up there. I ended up on dev.to because I liked interacting with it. I feel like this is
Right.
easier. Hashnode
It
seemed
has cute
less.
like
It was, yeah. I
stickers
like the little
and
badges.
reactions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
badges,
for the
man.
badges. You get
I'm
like
a sucker for some
rewards.
good badges.
Yeah, if you like comment, like I remember I got my first badge, it was like, oh, you made a comment on something. I was like, I did do that. Thank you.
I
You know,
thanks for noticing. I am
I
here 3 days in a row.
right.
Daily.dev does badges and like streaks and stuff too, man.
I like streaks.
Gamification is where it's at.
Yeah, yeah, and Hashnote is fine, but for some reason, like the UI just irritates me, so I just don't use
You
it.
got to get
And I think it's that blue color.
Timantika on here. She's a DevRel for Hashnode.
She's
I
a
don't know if I said her
Hashnote.
name right.
I don't know why. It's just I remember I was going through like all the top blogging sites before I started my blog. I was like Dev.to, Medium, Hashnode. The reason I don't like Medium is because it's like you have a paywall thing and
Yeah, I
I
can't
can't.
do it.
So
I can't do that to people.
yeah, I can't. I don't like the paywall thing. So
That's why I
anyway.
didn't do Medium either.
I appreciate that, Richard. I will let you know. You can be my first
One
subscriber.
subscriber. You're at one right now.
Right?
No, you
I
got
was
me
thinking
too.
about
You're
that
at two.
lately. I'm
I do
like,
it.
who's gonna read my newsletter? Like, who's gonna like
Yeah.
wake up in the morning? Oh,
Yeah.
what's Ellie got to say today? Like, I just can't imagine. You know?
Yeah. I mean, just think about what you would want to read. I tend to like newsletters that are give me something like a few quick, cool things at the top. Maybe give me a
Yeah.
link to a longer form article. I may or may not have time for that. And then like, I don't know, something just kind of random. Like I like how Cassidy's her newsletter, like she's always got something. My cat did something cute today. Yeah. Like she's always
That's
got like a
cute.
random, I think she does like what is it, like interview questions and other like she'll just throw some random stuff in there. Like
That's
I
cool.
and then but then there's different ones. Like I have, I subscribe to Kelly's newsletter, and then
Yeah,
there's like
Kelly's. I
another
read
one.
hers today. Actually,
I
it
haven't
was
read hers
good.
yet today.
It was
Yeah.
about burnout, and I'm like trying to avoid that because you can feel it coming on,
Oh
and
man.
I've just been doing a lot of traveling lately. It's just really kind of getting to me. So I feel like the first indicator that like I'm about to get burnt out is like I just cannot express myself clearly, and recently I just
Yeah.
cannot
It's like that
really
brain fog
articulate.
almost.
Yeah, I'm just not able to like express myself as well as I used to, and I'm sleeping, but so I read her
Wait,
newsletter. I was like, I'll take those tips, Kelly. Like,
was this work for like work travel, or you just like personal travel is just been moving?
it's just things that were planned before. Like I think it was render, and then and then I went to Florida because my parents live in Florida, and then I went to that conference, but while I was in Florida I was going to some other places too, and then
Oh
I went
wow.
back from that conference back to Florida, and then I went to Canada, and then when we were in Canada my mom came, so we went on like the vacation within Canada, so like
Oh
partially
wow.
work stuff but also partially personal, and now
So, but
I'm
it was just too much
here.
back to back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot. It was a lot. So I was like, okay,
You
I'm
needed
fine though.
You need a long weekend though. Like you need a
Right.
long weekend with like nothing to do.
I think I just
Reset.
like there's too much input. I when I get stressed and I'm like, okay, let's add some more things. I don't know why I do that, but I do. So I'm like conscious of it. And I read the newsletter today. I don't usually read newsletters, but I was like, maybe this is a sign that I should
Yeah,
chill,
you needed it
go on
today.
nature walks or something. So I
Right.
went on 2 walks
Everybody's
today.
Oh,
It was good.
nice. Yeah, I do a
Yeah.
lot of walking as well. But I'm also like, I can't just relax about it. So because I've started walking more and now the weather's getting nicer, so I set myself like walking goals for the month. So I looked back through the Google does like the little insights thing when it's stalking you.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, how much do I walk on average? Okay, about this miles per okay, I'm gonna
So
set my
funny.
walking goal to X amount of miles. So I need to average this many miles because I can't just like do something for myself without it being like a game.
Right. I do
So
that too.
so
I'm
I've got
like,
like
can
a
I get
walking
to
goal.
10K steps today? Literally
Yeah,
saying.
so I'm really susceptible to like if I make it into a game. But
Right.
it's not stressful. It's just funny. I'm like, why can't I just walk? And it's not about anything. I'm about I have walking goals to meet right now. I'm taking a break today because I walked extra the last 2 days.
Amazing. Yeah, that sounds like me. I'm the same way. But I think the gamification helps me though.
It
It
does.
doesn't I don't think it adds stress. I'm like, all right, this will encourage me to get out and touch some
Yeah, it's
grass,
like that. And this time of year is for me, I don't know if it is free. Where are you live in
I'm
Florida
in
or you live in
Canada.
Canada? Canada,
Well,
okay.
that's the problem. I live in Florida
Oh,
and Canada. So
okay. I was
that's
like, 'cause
like
sometimes you're in Florida for sure.
yeah, yeah. So it's just been a lot recently with
Yeah.
stuff. But
Okay, but you're in this like the weather's getting nice time zone area
it's
of the world right
nice.
now. Yeah. So
Right.
like
It
this
just
is a
was
good
like
walking time.
felt like autumn today for some reason. I was like, oh, it's like the breeze. Kind of wish I
Yeah.
wore a long sleeve.
I know, right? It was chilly this morning. I
It
really
was.
enjoyed that. I'm enjoying it. Oh man, I don't know
Yeah.
if I could live in a place where the seasons don't change because I'm so used to like that, looking forward to like the next thing coming.
Yeah, yeah. I
Anyway,
do I do think that helps because in Florida it's hot and then it's cold for a little bit. But it's
yeah.
kind of you just don't really look forward to sunny days, if that makes sense, because it's always
Mm.
sunny. So
You're like, oh,
it's like
cool.
too bright,
Another.
hurts your eyes. So when it's like kind of cloudy, you're like, it's
You
nice,
get a little break. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
like, okay, so this, in the spirit of your burnout and talking about relaxation, I feel like we should start to wrap it up.
Yes,
I
we
can,
probably should. I'm
yeah,
so bad at ending these because I love,
yeah,
I love talking to you, so I'm so bad at ending these. But yeah, we should definitely wrap it
yeah.
up. Um and yeah, I
I'm
see
gonna go
Richard
feed these
is
dogs.
yeah, and make sure they have their pizza back.
The
Yes,
pizza in
the
question,
pizza.
I don't know if Shashi's still here, but this is the pizza that I was brought
Does
today.
that have
No
pineapple on it?
pineapples.
No
No, it
pineapples.
doesn't.
He'll
It
be
has
happy
mushrooms,
about that.
green peppers, some small circles, pepperonis, tomatoes, and what might be parsley.
Oh no. At least it doesn't have pineapple, so we're not offending Shashi anymore.
Oh,
But
he's done with us, I
he's
think.
probably gone. He's probably gone, but at least Richard here is still here. Richard was the first one, and now he's the last one. So appreciate you, Richard. You win the ultimate first one, last one prize of the stream today. So thank you for that.
Yes, we
Um,
appreciate you.
we appreciate you. Yeah. But thank you so much, Amanda. It was so good talking to you. And I loved hearing
Yeah,
about your
totally.
story and all the sort of serendipity moments. And then
Yeah.
also about like conferences and speaking at conferences and not being weird with the
Be
company
weird.
plugs.
Be weird, but don't be
Be
weird.
weird, but don't be weird. Find your flow with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was really good. I loved all of the points you made. It was so much fun.
No, this
And
is a
yes,
great time. Thanks for having me.
you
Oh
win
my
a
gosh.
cookie.
I
I'll
win a
send you the
cookie. Yeah.
cookie. I'll do like Uber Eats cookie service
Oh,
or
yeah.
something.
Oh, do we have to take a picture? We forgot last time we talked.
Oh yeah, we should take a picture. Okay, ready? Ready?
Hold
We'll
on.
do
Are you
one.
doing it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do it. Okay, let me see. I think it works. I think it's good. I took a
Yes,
picture.
we did it.
We
We did the
documented this
DevRel thing
moment.
right.
Amazing. We did it right.
All
We can be
right,
like,
go
we talked about
relax.
Wix and pieces a lot.
We did. Oh, both really cool tools. And one of these days I'll get them to actually, sorry, I have one more thing that I have to tell you that's really
Yeah,
funny to
go
me.
ahead.
Jim, your boss or your
Uh-huh.
team lead is in the DevRel chat that I told you about. And
Yeah.
he was looking for something like a badge software. And I
Uh-huh.
DM'd him and I was like, how much time do you have? Because we can absolutely make that on Wix Studio.
Oh my god.
And then I was telling him that I can't test pieces on my work machine because I can't download stuff like that. But
Uh-huh.
like that I was telling him how like most AI is notoriously bad at giving code examples for Wix. It's like
No.
using old versions of our docs and stuff instead of current docs. So it'll give code examples that are out of date. And so if you're new and
Terrible.
low code has a lot of beginners to JavaScript in it because it's a friendly environment to learn something. Is because with low code, a lot of things are taken care of you. But like, so with pieces, I was like, I wonder how good it is because you've got access to all the models. So I was like,
Right.
I'll probably have to pull out my personal computer and try it at some point, or get security to look at your product and go, it's fine. You're not stealing
Yeah, you
personal
should
data.
try it. If you try it,
Yeah.
let me know. I would love to know if it
Yeah.
actually gets like the most recent doc data there.
Yeah.
If
We'll have
not,
to maybe
we'll have
do
to
something. We
see.
can set it up. Yeah. See if
Yeah,
like we can do like a Ken pieces work with stream with Wix on stream. Then it's work and
yeah,
we can
we
do
should do
it
that.
during the workday.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Let me I'll submit it to security and see if they review it.
Okay.
Since I know you guys well, so sometimes with tools,
Mhm.
we have a security procedure and they're pretty fast, but sometimes they can't figure it out, like, and they need
Yeah.
to talk to somebody from the company. And some companies aren't great at like responding to requests. But I was like, I know you
Oh,
guys,
we
so
have
if they
people.
have a question that isn't answered by whatever their review process entails, I'll be
Yeah.
like, I know people there. I can help.
Definitely. I think if there is a problem, they can't figure it out, then somebody I think Mason can talk to somebody because Mason knows all about the security stuff, I'm pretty sure.
Awesome.
So somebody that knows all about that stuff, I will send
Yeah,
them
that's
your
not my
way.
department either. Not my
I
not my
don't know much
specialty.
about that to be honest, so I would
Yeah, I
not be
know how
able
to
to
not mess up a
sound
database
convincing.
with a form. Like, that's about it.
Yeah.
All right.
I can tell you how
We're
good it
really
is, but I
leaving you
can't tell
now.
you
We
anything
gotta
else.
go. We gotta do it. We're just gonna keep
Okay,
talking if
let's
we
do it.
don't. All right.
Okay, it was so good to
Bye,
talk to
Ellie. Thank
you.
you. Bye.